Good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing great. It's the last 2 weeks politically have been insane, and things that go on down in DC, um, have a lot of us scratching our heads because we don't understand how some things get overlooked and some things are prosecuted without really laws or the proper reasons behind it. And what I'm talking about is all of these pro-Hamas demonstrators that were in DC yesterday. I, first of all, we all know the rights that we have to protest, the rights that we have as Americans, but things have gone a little too far when you've got these people going into a hotel and releasing maggots and termites and crickets and setting off fire alarms and taking down the American flag in front of Union Station there in DC and putting up the Palestinian flag and burning the American flag and protesting the way that they are and defacing things. And those types of things would fall under the explanation of what a true insurrection is. These people want to see the downfall of America. They may not be going into the actual Capitol peacefully, but they are doing things which are un-American and which are dangerous to society. Even the one guy who went to pull the flag, the burning American flag out, the large piece that he was able to get out and start walking away with it, they immediately started yelling, "Get him!" And he ran through the crowd and tried to get away from him, ended up dropping the piece of the flag that he was carrying and continued running to get out of their area. Those people, if they would have caught up with him, they would have probably beat him senseless. And again, nothing would have happened to these people at all. And I heard something yesterday and it made me go, yes, this is absolutely true. If any of those people had been wearing MAGA hats, they would have been arrested immediately. It would have been January 6th all over again. But they can be in America wearing the Hamas scarves, the pro-Hamas, the scarves that indicate they are pro-Hamas, a terrorist group. And they're just allowed to do any type of destruction that they want to anything. It's wrong. It's sending the wrong message. And like I said yesterday on my show, I watched a video of a young girl, and I believe it was in England, according to the police outfits, but she had a megaphone and she was screaming all types of things about pro-Hamas and free Palestine and whatnot. And boom, immediately there were sirens. A police van came up. She's screaming, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. They put her in the back of a police van and drove her off. They don't understand the consequences in other countries, what would happen to them. But they do know that they can come to America and protest and scream and yell and beat people up and burn the American flag and burn buildings and deface public property, deface government property, and not a dang thing will happen to them. They know this. And they're so far that freedom of speech goes before it becomes trespassing, before it becomes criminal activity, defacing public and private property and governmental property. And this is where the police departments are afraid to step over that line and start arresting these people. The Department of Justice doesn't want to prosecute them. And this is where things are going to completely get out of hand very, very fast. It's not going to be anything that you're going to be able to nip in the bud. Not when it's gone on for so long. I mean, you're looking back to the summer of love when they were burning down, Portland and burning down Seattle and after the George Floyd situation, all the burning that they were doing there. burning down whole communities. Nothing happened to those people. And so they feel like they have been given the green light to continue their behavior and their activity. And having somebody like Kamala Harris running for president when she, in fact, is the root cause of the problem with these people, when you stop to think about how she donated to those bail funds to get those Antifa protesters out of jail. She's all about the no bail situation. She's all about releasing illegal criminals back out onto our streets. She's all about everything that what the law stands for is against. And it is absolutely insane to watch her speaking at these rallies that she's doing and the amount of people who are screaming, yelling in the background. Now, look, I know, I saw video proof of it. You know, there's big busloads coming into DC, unloading all these protesters, these pro-Hamas protesters, getting off the buses, carrying their signs, having their scarves around their heads. Who knows who was paying those people, because they're not going to do it for free. Trust me. They're getting paid. So, you know, and Act Blue has so much money donated to them from, you know, Black Lives Matter, that who knows how many of these people that they're paying to be at Kamala Harris's rallies. Wouldn't put it past them. She supposedly had the biggest 24 hours in fundraising in presidential campaign history of the United States. So if that's the case, of course they could afford to bust in a few hundred people to her rallies. Maybe not pan out to the audience, but at least there would be more voices to make it sound like she had attendance at her rallies. And it's really kind of sad how these Democrats are just foolishly being pulled around by their nose ring. Come over here. We're going to support this guy who's senile. Oops, no. Come over here. We're going to support his vice president who didn't do anything at all. You know, and they keep bringing it up on liberal media that she was not the border czar. Well, you know, all of these things are coming up with things that Biden was saying. He put her in charge of the border. And even if and you know, the root causes of this irregular immigration, that's what she was in charge of finding out. What was going on? Fix the problem. Well, guess what, Kamala? You failed at that too. Guess what, Democrats? There's nothing positive about what this woman has done. Nothing. And if you think, if there's anything about Joe Biden's policies that make you squirm or feel uncomfortable, you know, let's hear about Kamala's. The thing is, all she's going to talk about at her rallies is that Project 2025 is President Trump's agenda. It's not. It's come out of his own mouth. It's come out of the Heritage Foundations that this is not, Trump's not involved in this. And you've got, you know, Representative Jaya Pollitt at congressional hearings screaming out, instead of questioning the witnesses that they have there, talking about how Project 2025 is a Trump agenda. Everybody needs to get on the website and check it out. She has to have her moment to add to the talking points that the liberal media already has. So you're going to be hearing a lot about Project 2025 from Kamala Harris. But here's the big question. Kamala Harris, what's your plan? Let's hear about what you plan to do for the country. Let's hear about your devastating plan for America. Honestly and truthfully. It's going to be, you know, Biden on steroids. It's going to be much, much worse than what Obama was trying to pull off. The one world order is definitely going to be the puppet master behind her. She is all about the Green Deal, the new Green Deal. She was a deciding vote in a few things as a senator. So we've got to be careful about this woman, and we've really got to be out right now. You know, in Maricopa County, the amount of Republican mail-in ballots that have been turned in is a little concerning right now. And if this is the way it is across the country, you know, we have to pray and hope that Republicans don't just think, oh, well, they got a lousy candidate, we don't have to worry about things. Now is the time. And if we have a dismal showing in the primaries, the Democrats are going to take full advantage of that, folks. And by you not voting, you are adding to the problem of why the Democrats think that they have the upper hand, because you're sitting home and not making your vote count. I'm surprised at how many in my area right here around my house. I get on the Turning Point app, and I was texting people yesterday, you know, because it shows up has not turned in has an outstanding mail-in ballot. It's too late to put it in the mail now, folks. And so I took a screenshot of a Word doc that I had put together of all the polling places in my area, and we're telling these people, you know, your vote matters. And here's the polling places. Don't put your mail-in ballot in the mail now. You know, the thing about Maricopa County is they went out like a week, you know, still waiting for mail-in ballots to arrive because people waited until a day or two before the primary to stick them in the mail. The U.S. Postal Service isn't going to get it there in time. In fact, you better cross your fingers that your ballot arrives to the destination. The United States Postal Service DEI hires is ruining Postal Service. And I'm experiencing that firsthand. You know, my mail, my every bit of my mail has been delivered to my neighbor on several occasions. And then my neighbor next door got a couple pieces of my mail. And yesterday, I get the email in the morning showing me pictures of the mail that's coming to my house that day. Only one piece of mail showed up, and it was junk mail, and the other piece was a bill. So which one of my neighbors got my bill? Is it a neighbor who doesn't care and will not come and knock on my door and give me my mail? Probably. So I sat on the phone for 57 minutes with the Postal Service to file a complaint against their latest DEI hire in my neighborhood. You know, what are they going to do about it? They don't care because they need that ESG score. And that's what's sad about America. This is where we're going, folks. Because the world elites, one world order, all of these people who are running the government and running this country behind the scenes have decided and taken it upon themselves. We have to give people scores. And they got to hire so many people from the LGBTQ community, and so many people from this community, and so many people from this group of people. And they've made the rules, even though they may not be competent enough and trained enough and knowledgeable enough in the job that you're hiring for. You better hire them unless you want your score to go down. And what's a score going to do? Everyday Americans are not paying attention to your ESG score. Yes, it might have something to do with the money that you're able to borrow and function as a business. But understand, the American people are going to support you. The patriotic American people are going to support you. And if every big company said, no, put a stop to it, what are these people going to do with their ESG score? You know, the banks aren't going to have any businesses that are going to come to them to get a loan. They're going to realize that they need to start supporting these businesses and not going along with this one world order, you know, the elites, the cabal, whatever it is in the United States, whoever's running things behind the show, behind the curtains. Those people need to be set back on their heels. And they need to understand we're not going to take it anymore. We need to have the spirit of our founding fathers when they came over here, leaving England and all of the pressure that they got from the government there and coming here for a free life. We need to be feeling that inside of us. We need to still be proud of the country that they created for us. It's scary times. And, you know, I'm listening to all kinds of podcasts and news things. And I finally had to take a little break yesterday and the day before from it all. The day before, especially, I didn't even do my podcast. I did a rerun because sometimes you just need to unplug. And Tuesday was my day. After everything that's been going on, it's just like I had to just put on some nice music. I had to stay off my phone. I had to stay off my computer. And I tended to business around the house. Things that I've been overlooking. So easy to overlook things with so much chaos, you know, being stirred up constantly. And wasn't President Biden's address to the nation, wasn't that quite the letdown? You know, it wasn't anything that we expected. No explanation about anything. I was halfway expecting him to say he was stepping down to president and Kamala was going to take over. But thank goodness that didn't happen. Although who is running the country is the next big question, right? Who is in charge right now? Who would get that phone call at 3:00 in the morning if we were being attacked or something bad had happened to our embassies or something overseas? Who's going to get the call? Big question, big worry. And it's pretty funny to me how energetic and how much time Kamala has to travel and go around and speak to the people. I mean, I know they weren't showing a lot of the things as a vice president that she was going and speaking out in the events and stuff because, come on, number one, she's not that interesting. Number two, she's kind of an embarrassment. Number three, she doesn't know how to speak publicly. And number four, who isn't sick of her cackle? You know, she laughs at her own jokes. And what I found really hilarious these past a couple of days ago was when Chuck Schumer came out, you know, giving her his support, and nobody clapped. You know, he's, yay, we're going to support Kamala, and nobody's clapping. And so he starts clapping. He goes, well, I'll clap if you won't. It's kind of like that's the enthusiasm about Kamala Harris being the vice or the presidential candidate. And then you got the whole money thing. You know, she's talking it up like, oh my gosh, I've raised more money than Trump's ever done. No. And I was just reading a thing where I want to read this to you because this is how demented and sick and deceiving and lying the media is. Okay, so this says, there is zero chance on this planet that in 24 hours, 880,000, mostly first-time donors, donated $80 million to Kamala Harris. The woman who got less than 1% of the vote in 2020 and has a 37% approval rating and is polling worse than Joe Biden. They're laundering money through ActBlue. How stupid do they think people are? And then they went on to say, breaking up large single donations, as an example, $20 million among what looks like many donors, is called smurfing, a stealth strategy ActBlue was previously exposed executing, and ActBlue donor messaging also promised to match Kamala's donations at 900%. If all donors were organic and at the $200 per donor they projected, which are both lies, that's only 44.5 or 44,500 individual donors to hit $81 million. This is how they lie to you. And trust me, folks, it's not new donors. It's transferring over the money that Joe Biden had in his campaign. We've just had a special guest come and join in us. Oh, she just put something in her mouth. Now, this is Professor West's assistant, and we are now in Professor West conversation. Professor West and his trusty assistant, Sandra. So Professor West reached out to me yesterday after my podcast and had a few corrections to make. And so I told him that he needed to come on and publicly correct me. So Professor West, the floor is yours.
Oh, this is getting deep.
Generation X. Generation X is the generation that speaks for itself. That's all I've got to say.
Backtrack. I kept talking about these videos that I was seeing of these mentally ill teenagers and in their early 20s, and I was referring to them as Gen Xers when in reality they are Gen Zers. So this is where Professor West is setting straight for me.
That is right. The Gen Xers we're the ones who set the pace. Now, because we were so tough, we probably had a couple of failures in creating the Gen Zers and the millennials of today. Because, well, while their participation trophies started just after Gen X, remember when it used to be first, second, and third, and then all of a sudden honorable mention came in there?
Yes.
Yeah. What's honorable mention?
We call him President Biden.
Yeah. Or Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. No. Now, just so your people don't think I lost it.
Kamala Harris did not even score. She got 3% of the presidential race whenever she ran and backed out. So she quit when she saw there was nothing else to get done. The Democrat Party came in and said, hey, we got Joe. We got to stick with Joe. He's got a plan. And we've now seen that the plan is not even to have a puppet that we can control. But we need one where our hand is firmly up the rectum and is moving around, and all moving parts are based upon the fingers of the DNC that have moved Joe Biden. And then when Joe Biden is told he's going to have to step down and leave, as we saw in the past week, he put up a fight. He wasn't going to release the $90 million, of which only $80 million made its way in. So,
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
And that's your millennials. That's your Gen Zers. Sandra, is there a new faction of weirdos or demographics now that describe the American peasant?
Well, I mean, I don't really know that it's a true faction per se. They just call us voters.
Yeah. So
I think we're stupid.
No, Marianne, I'm a part of the Gen X club, so you're gonna see some pretty badass T-shirts. It has the X with the American flag, and I'll probably have some Trump stuff up there because Don Jr. he's a Gen Xer. I think Eric is too. So, wait a minute. Whoa.
Now, hold on.
Wait a second. What's President Trump's wife's name?
Melania.
And isn't she like 55?
Oh, she's a Gen Xer, huh?
Well, now hold on a second. Now, this is where people my age get screwed, though, because I am not a Gen Zer, but according to the map, I am, and that's not okay.
Well, you know what? You just got to fight your way out of it. If you get into law, you can actually write a bill that repurposes the actual birth number. So maybe they'll go with like 1988 or 1990.
Why do we even have these labels?
That's right. Well,
because people like Walter like to bash people with labels.
Right?
No, I wasn't the one who was talking about Gen Xers yesterday.
That wasn't
me. That wasn't me. Although, although I'll have to say, so being funny is one thing, but But I like your I like your opponent there, Marianne. She's I noticed that she was coming up in my friend's suggestions. Never
Well, she's not
once.
my opponent. She's actually my Republican running mate.
Oh, she's your running mate. Okay.
We're not running together, but we have 2 seats. Yeah.
Why is she pushing the agenda so heavy of let's just all get along? The honorable mention of politics, so to speak, where I read where she was in the state house and they were talking about, she was talking about the left and the right and the crazy right and the crazy left, and we can all come together in the middle. And she specifically was discussing abortion. And I'm like, you know what? At some point in time, Republicans need to get off of the talking point idols so they can get crap done. Because every time you want to talk about the border, they want to talk about immigration, and security is not immigration. Every time you want to talk about women's rights and then reproductive rights, you have the right to reproduce. There's that. But then they want to get in there and they want to start confiscating it with other issues that don't that are just polarizing and lead to nowhere.
Right.
And that's the left and the right. And it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, a woman should have the rights to her body, but I don't think I need to be the one paying for it because you didn't teach better, didn't learn better, or there was a crime that was not prevented. And it is a crime for rape and incest. And at one point in time, we're going to address that and make that illegal. So once we start getting into the whole and not taking everybody's guns, because if we had a little more ability and less liability to shoot, we'd probably eradicate, some of these turds that need to be eradicated. We wouldn't have had that kid climb up on the tower, although I don't think that's, I literally think that's Lee Harvey Oswald II. I don't think that kid is, I don't think that kid is totally complicit in what he did.
He almost just said Sandra was right.
I've literally been saying this the whole entire time.
You are so full of. You told me I was crazy.
See, Marianne, look at this. Look at this. You know what? Her and I have a private conversation, and she goes public with it like it's her idea. She's starting to sound like Mike Pence or what's that guy's name? Paul Ryan. Oh man.
I'm fairly certain that you were past the flip out when I even said it publicly on the show. Mr. West, Professor West.
I think we could probably go back to that recording because it's actually on TX Baconation. Did you know that TX Baconation is the platform for Texas Fully Loaded? Because Texas Fully Loaded didn't get fully vetted on the Twitter feed, but me and Elon, we go way back.
The actual propaganda. That is just unreal. How do you sleep at night? You know what? Maybe that's why you can't sleep at night half the time.
Are you part of the cabal?
Not me. No, but I'm not going to take credit, but I'm not going to deny that after I talked to Elon Musk in private about possibly launching rockets from South Texas to inspire people to look at the border in a different direction, he abruptly moved SpaceX to Cameron County, Texas, and now we've got rockets lifting off at the mouth of the Rio Grande.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for that.
So did you also talk to Jeff Bezos about launching them out there in West Texas too?
Yeah.
Please put that phone call into Elon Musk and tell him that he needs to reinstate Angel Moms and Angel Families and my personal Twitter page that I was suspended, 4 years ago.
Oh, is that still a thing?
Yeah, and I have tweeted out to him many, many times, tagged him to please reinstate all of my accounts. Because, all of my accounts were suspended on Twitter, my personal account, and then they went ahead and Angel Families and Angel Moms was collateral damage because they were connected to my personal account because I had the audacity to put out in 2020 Sharpie Gate in Maricopa County. And
Sharpie Gate.
Wait
a minute. We had Sprinkler Gate in Atlanta.
Yes.
And then That's right. We had Sharpie Gate. Hey, which Arizona county was it where the ballots were loaded up into vehicles and then burned on someone's farm?
I didn't hear about that.
The
Wait, what?
Did Elon Musk let you know about that? Is that some?
No. See, that's the fun part about all the fake news that's been going on, is that there's so much fake news that got put out there that people didn't know what was real, what was not real, and here we are, full forward, coming ahead, and we're getting stuck with the fact that half the stuff that everybody was believing is not true. They're repeating it. They sound crazy. I mean, much like, when Sandra predicted that Biden was going to step down, much like that. And people aren't putting this stuff together. Putting two and two together to make it the reality that we might be getting gypped here.
Wait, so like from your first statement to your ending statement, like I'm left thinking, what was the point of even bringing up the burning the ballots? You didn't give any explanation. Or, hello?
Exactly. So let me let you in on some inside baseball in Texas. We have an election integrity as an issue, obviously, and nobody has the same definition of what election integrity is. Ballot fraud, voter fraud, or ballot security and voter roll security. We now in Texas have there's a PAC that's been putting out We the People. No, not We the People PAC. It's a People PAC. It's in their latest. Current Revolt was the last one to put it out, but they had the Democrat PAC that I'm just forgetting the name of it. Sandra, you can go back and Current Revolt. It's today's article. But the Democrats are actually getting absentee ballots mailed out via the cost of the Secretary of State, because there's a loophole in how you do it. And so they're getting, so instead of a PAC raising money to get the stuff out, they're requesting it on behalf of the voter, and it's from the PAC. So half the people that obviously that are going to get it, they're going to register and all that kind of stuff. They're going to remember that, this Democrat PAC, they're the ones who sent it to me. So what's going to happen next? Then they're going to start flooding their inbox, their mailbox, and all that stuff with their ballot slates. This is how you should vote. And
get a load of this. So an 85-year-old woman here, an 83-year-old woman who's lived in her home for 25 years and receives her ballot at her mailing address, which was a P.O. box. At the same time, she received what I'm going to read you, at her home address. She's never heard of this person. It was addressed to Cesar Andre Avila Laque IV. And it says, and it's from Maricopa County Recorder's Office. We have received your voter registration application, but because you did not provide documentary proof of citizenship and we could not acquire documented proof of your citizenship for you from MVD records, you have been registered as a federal-only voter in Arizona. This means you are eligible to vote in any federal races, congressional or presidential, using an Arizona federal-only ballot. And to update your voter registration to a full ballot, bring all your documentation in, blah, 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 blah. And this voter registration card in this illegal's name was sent to her address, and she's never heard of this person at all.
Well,
so that's what's going on in Maricopa County, folks.
Yeah, but what you need to look at there is, so, Marion, you can't, these illegals have a right to vote somewhere, just not here. So why is the federal? I thought voting was the state's issue.
To vote in the state elections, like they can't vote in Arizona state elections because they didn't prove their citizenship. But
who's in charge of the federal elections in Arizona?
Correct. But we've tried to pull that off, and the federal government has come after us and said, you're not allowed to stop these people from voting in federal elections. So that's what we need our congressional leaders to do, is to put this back to the states.
Well, and here was the fun with that is that Congress did pass the SAVE Act,
right?
That was going to do that very thing, and surprise, surprise, the Democrat-led Senate is not passing it. It's completely stalled out there. Which there's no surprise to me that happened at all.
But where in the Constitution and any of the laws in the United States of America does it afford an illegal alien or an alien at all the ability to have voter rights?
Doesn't.
That's called citizenship, and then you don't have to worry about whether or not you have an immigration status or not.
Right.
Walter, they don't have to. I mean, gosh, in today's society, what makes you think that they have to
but
say anything other than I am a citizen? They say Joy City.
But so when I reached out to Ken Paxton's office last fall, 2023, we discussed the fact that other states, their health and human services departments were signing up illegal aliens because the illegal aliens contacted us and said, "Hey, I am here on asylum, and they're registering me to vote." And they're walking me through the process in Espanol on how to register to vote. Specifically, that was Oregon, and it was interesting. And people were like, "Oh, how did you get an illegal alien to say this?" And it was an asylum seeker, but at the same time, who'd been trafficked through Ecuador and some other stuff, and had finally made their way to Mayorkas's bus that put them on a plane, and they flew into Houston Intercontinental Airport at 6:30 in the morning, and they flew out to Portland, Oregon at 7 o'clock at night. So they were processed somewhere in there. But they specifically said this is how the socialists took over Venezuela 20 years ago, but by letting all the illegals vote, because Venezuela had an illegal problem also. And so we actually had some patriots of Venezuela that said, "Hey, our country's already lost. That's why we're coming here, and we're seeking political asylum." I mean, this is somebody I would literally. I mean, I've shared text messages and a phone call with an interpreter, of course. And the funny part is, they physically have a job. They're making money and they're paying taxes in the U.S. within 4 weeks of getting here. So, I mean, more power to these guys. But
what you're saying is, I need to go across and then come back and just.
Sandra, you're a knucklehead.
I'm just here to get a job.
Sandra, I have told you that you literally live 500 feet from the border. You can physically swim, or actually at this point, you can walk across the river and make your way over to the bridge, and just say, "Hey, I'm seeking asylum in the U.S." And when they say, remember, no ID. And when they say, "Well, ma'am, where are you coming from?" Just tell them, I don't know, but I don't need to be here.
I think her first name should be Yolanda.
Yeah, Yolanda Ochoa.
Yeah. So I was just reading a huge article where the NGOs are actually going through these facilities and signing people up to vote. And if Americans don't understand, this is the Democratic plan, and they will put whatever address they want. That's why you have 200 people at the same address, because the Democrats put an address where they know they can harvest the ballots and go ahead and put them out. They don't need these people to actually vote. They just need the ballot to be produced for these voters, for them to take over from that point on.
Well, and during the 2020 cycle, my neighbor across the street at the time had a company house up in Austin. A bunch of pilots and stuff like that would go up there, and they'd call it home while they're working out of there. And he said, "Sandra, you'll never believe this." He said, "But we had this group of Democrats come through." And he said, "We're all Republicans." He said, "But so we gave them the business, but they literally came by with a stack like that of mail-in ballots and said, 'Hey, can you just fill these out?' And we told them that none of us lived here and none of us were registered here. They said, 'That doesn't matter. We just need these filled out.'"
Yep. Well, let me show you something. These are all the ballots I've
Hey, let me switch over off of my Wi-Fi onto the Wi-Fi.
Okay, these are all the ballots I've received at my house for my kids who don't live here over the years.
Wow!
And thank goodness I'm an honest person, and I'm just holding on to them as evidence. When I get over there into the state house, I'm going to be taking it as evidence when we're doing this sort of thing about voter integrity. But if I was not an honest person, all of those ballots would have been turned in and filled out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what a lot of people do when they get the ballots there for their relatives. I can't believe how many doors I'm knocking on in my neighborhood from, you know, apps that is provided for me. And I'll knock on the door and they'll be like, oh, my daughter, she hasn't lived here for 10 years. You know, she lives in another part of Mesa. She still lives here, but they're still being sent to those addresses. And so what's wrong with that is those ballots are printed out specific for a legislative district. And so that person, even if they go over to their mom's house to vote, they're voting for people in a legislative district that they don't even live in anymore.
Right. Well,
You know?
we had the problem. Austin and I were going in Tyler County, Texas. We were trying to help out a friend, and so we were going through some stuff. And we ended up. This wasn't the purpose originally, but we ended up doing, you know, marking, hey, these people don't live here anymore. You know, all of that information. But this was a list, a physical printed out list that was provided from the county elections office. People were dead on that list. People hadn't lived in those houses for a couple of years. Some of those houses didn't even exist on the list. And I'm over here, and this is a small county. I'm talking like less than 20,000 people in the entire county. And, you know, Austin and I are kind of like, huh, well, we thought we were going to be doing this, but it turns out they need us to help them clean their their voter rolls. And, you know, it's crazy. People think that their elections are secure, and that they're not.
Well, and you know, in 2020, you know, the big thing was with the Republican Party here in Arizona, the walk lists that they had, the GOP access that, you know, precinct committee men and women could get on to knock doors. They were using precinct committee men and women to update their records. Yet we've got a county recorder, Stephen Richer, here in Maricopa County, that now that he's running for re-election, which he better not get reelected, he's now putting all of these ads out, which of course is taxpayer money for the recorder's office, saying Maricopa County has the most secure elections, and we update our voter rolls daily. You know, it's actually a campaign ad, but it's not specific to him running for office. But they don't put these sort of commercials out on TV any other time of the year to make you feel comfortable. So he is using taxpayer money for a campaign ad, basically. But like you and I have talked about before, in this computerized world we live in, why isn't the Vital Statistics office directly connected to the Secretary of State, to the Recorder's office? And they're immediately notified on a daily basis of people who passed away in the state of Arizona. Why did I keep getting ballots for my deceased son?
Right. I mean, it legitimately doesn't make sense. And that list that we had, you know, we had a former precinct judge, and she literally said, she's looking at the list and she goes, oh yeah, this one's dead, this one's dead, this one's dead. And they said, well, how do you know? And she said, I pronounced them dead. I signed their death certificates, and she hadn't been a judge in a couple of years.
Yes, it's just mind-boggling, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and they're saying that there's over, I think it's over 180,000 illegals who voted in our state elections in 2020 and 2022. Not 180, maybe it's 18,000, something that would have tipped the scale the right way. And so, right. You know, the Democrats, they knew what they needed to do. They knew how many extra ballots they needed to print out. And I was saying earlier on my podcast, the mail-in ballots that are out there right now, Sandra, here in Maricopa County, the turn-in rate by Republicans is dismal. It's really looking bad.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm texting people from the Turning Point app. I'm texting people, and because it's got on there an unreturned ballot, hasn't voted yet, and I'm texting them saying, you know, hey, I'm your neighbor. I mean, you haven't voted yet. I took a screenshot of all the polling places that I put on a Word document. I typed up myself and said, please don't mail your mail-in ballot. Please drop it off at one of these polling places. What is wrong with people that they don't hold their vote as a valuable thing as American citizen?
Well,
what is wrong with people?
I think that that's the scary thing is like, they all pass their civics class and then they don't care after that, or they get disenfranchised, or they see this clown show. I mean, if I was a Democrat right now, you'd have a hard time getting me out to vote. I went and I cast my vote. I wanted, Joe Biden, or there wasn't really another option, or fill in the blank. And now it doesn't matter. They're gonna select who they wanted in the first place, and there's not a damn thing I, as a Democrat voter, could have done to have my voice be heard. And so you want to talk about disenfranchised voters?
Right. But first of all, if you were a Democrat, Sandra, your mindset wouldn't be thinking like what you're saying.
That's fair. That is fair. And I think that's the scary part. And I talked about on my show a little bit earlier. I said, right now is the best opportunity for the Democrats to take their party back. There are a thing called conservative Democrats. They really exist. Look at Senator Manchin from West Virginia. There's more like him, but they've been neutered by their party, or they've been snuffed out, and so now they're just kind of being a little bit more silent members of their party. And I think that they have a great opportunity to stage a coup and get a different nominee in there for president.
Yeah.
And if they have any balls, this is their moment to take it.
Right. Yep. And I think that they've been, underneath the thumb of the party elites for so long. But when you look at the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumer, Chuck Schumer couldn't even get up there and get enough excitement about, I'm supporting, Kamala Harris and let's all do this. And nobody's clapping him. He starts clapping. It's like, dude, you've overstayed your welcome. Like, step down from the podium, pack your bags, and go home. We're sick of you.
No, there's a lot of that's happening. I think it's really, you can't go from the most hated Democrat presidential candidate in 2020 to all of a sudden she's going to be the president of the United States. There's nobody's happy about it. On my show, I read off a list of who all has endorsed her as of Monday morning. I'm sorry. And I couldn't help but laugh because it's all the progressives. The only conservative, and I'll choke that right out, is the Clintons. Certainly not Hillary, but because she's as progressive as I can tell. But I think Bill likes to every once in a while remember that he has some conservative roots. Every once in a while, but they were the only notable conservative Democrats that were on that list, and that's still a laughable statement calling them conservative Democrats. Every other name on that list was a radical progressive Democrat, even the older ones.
But the thing is, even they were showing, AOC did a little video saying, in these backroom deals, these meetings that she's in, that Kamala's not going to be the candidate. That isn't the way it's going to go. I think what we have to worry about more than thinking the conservative Democrats could take their party back. I think the thing that we need to be worried about is the progressive socialist Democrats are going to take it over even more than what it already is. You've got the AOCs, and you've got the Jaya Pauls, and you've got the Ilhan Omar, and you've got all of these radicals who really are in Congress to take over and make the interests of foreign countries and terrorist countries the most important thing. Look, what happened in DC yesterday, that these radicals were allowed to just run free and do all of the damage they did, not only to, as an American watching the American flag being taken down and the Palestinian flag being put up in front of Union Station and the American flag being burned and federal property being defaced. If any one of them had a MAGA hat on, boom, arrest would have been made. We would have had a January 6th all over again, right? So
absolutely.
The fact that they've let these people do this for so long, it's like a child at home. If there's no consequences, you're never going to correct the behavior. And it's gotten so out of hand. Did you see the video of the young girl who was over in England with the megaphone and screaming about free Palestine, and the police came immediately with the van, and she's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. And they threw her in the back of a police van and drove her off. And it's like, this is what needs to start happening in America. We've given them permission to do this, and we've also told them there'll never be any consequences. Burn down our communities and do what you want, and nothing will ever happen to you people.
Well, I mean, should it though? I mean, they've had such oppressed lives, Marianne.
I know. And the Love Fest, I mean, that really showed the love they had for Portland, didn't it? Or was it Seattle?
It's funny because with all the on the show today, I made a prediction about AOC, being a potential running mate. And Walter's like, no, it has to be a white man. And I said, well, I hear you, but I mean, it's really the progressive dream. And he's like, well, AOC and Harris hate each other. And I said, yeah, well, so did Joe Biden and Harris. And here she was. They got in a screaming match. I don't think people remember that. They got in a screaming match during the 2020 Democrat debate. And so, I don't see that out of the thing. And she was one of the first Democrats to come out and endorse Kamala Harris as president. And I just looked right now that, AOC, it's on the list. It's on the list.
Isn't it amazing how hypocritical they are? They're just so hypocritical. And the scariest thing of all about right now in history is me. I'm so sick of trying to figure out what they're planning, what they're doing behind the scenes, trying to figure out or wrap my head around who's behind all of this. I mean, this plan is so deep-seated and so evil that I don't even think, Professor West could figure it out, honestly.
Well, I was going to note that the show is almost over. He did not come back. So does that make me the honorary Professor West?
Yes. Professor Whitten.
There you are.
But anyway, the other thing, and we didn't get to this yet, but the other thing that Walter was correcting me on, folks, I called him because he was making all kinds of crazy remarks in a group text with me and Sandra. And so I called and I said, what is your deal? And so he said, Marianne, what do you catch a fish with once you have it on the hook on your fishing line? And I said, a net. And he's like, right. And he's like, and what's that chocolatey drink that's in a bottle or energy drink? And I'm like, Yahoo. And he goes, that's right. Now put the two together with the word and. And I said, net and Yahoo. And he goes, that's how you say his name. So I guess I was pronouncing the name wrong yesterday on my podcast. I apologize to my listeners. So 2 big mistakes yesterday. And that was the reason for Professor West and his assistant, Professor Whitten, to come on today. Actually, I think West is Whitten's assistant, but I can say
that's the way it should be.
Yes.
But I don't think that's the way it ever is played out. But
well, he's not on here right now, so we can say whatever we want.
He sent this text message in our group text message. He goes, I'm not talking to Marianne anymore.
We were just talking about the net and Yahoo. So I let my readers know that you caught the mistake, and we've got 1 minute left. So your closing arguments, Walter?
So actually, I need to make an apology. All of my life, I've called it Yahoo. I didn't know that it was Yoo-hoo.
No, it's a Yahoo.
No, it is? Like, I know yahoo.com, but if you look at the chocolate drink, it's Yoo-hoo.
It's W-U, I mean, it's Y-U.
Y-O-O-H-O-O, Yoo-hoo.
Oh, yeah, it's Y-O-O-H-O.
Oh, very interesting.
Oh, can't see it. It's there. Yoo-hoo!
It's a plethora of information, Professor West, I tell you.
Where would we be without him, Marianne?
I don't know.
I am, just so everybody knows, I am taking auditions. I need new personal assistants. I had to get my own water. I had to adjust the Wi-Fi here. I've got no assistance for that. I need technical assistance is what I need.
Oh, you need
and I need, it ends in A-N-T-S, not in A-N-C-E.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, my time, oh no. I can't see. My mic Oh yeah, it just hit 10:55. My time's up, folks. So
Well, thanks for having us on, Marianne. We love you.
thank you for coming on, and I hope my viewers understood the 2 corrections from yesterday's show. It's Gen Zers, not Gen Xers, and it's Net and Yahoo. Goodbye. I hope you all have a nice weekend, and thank you both for coming on. I love you guys.
Bye.
Bye.